Today we're gonna be talking about the transgenders and the downsizing and the discrimination and the racism and the pudding pops and we're gonna be talking about the Bill Cosby sexualism and but first, before we talk about that, baby, why don't you drink this? No. Welcome to the news. Thanks for clicking and stuff. Before we begin the important things that are happening in the world, actual news, let's talk about what people are fucking talking about all week, last week, the week before that. Bill Cosby. Okay. I just think this is funny. Because if you know anything about the 70s, what you might know is that what Bill Cosby is accused of is basically the status quo for the 70s. Okay? But there's this thing that nobody seems to want to talk about, nobody seems to want to think about, that's kind of a weird aspect of this. And it's a little out of left field, but if let me hear me out, because it's a valid point. Okay, well, you're gonna hear me out because you watched the video, right? Or you're watching the video. So we have our first black president, right? Now, I myself personally grew up in the 80s, 90s, well, mostly 80s, 90s, early 90s. And to me, being as my dad went from working all the time to skedaddling, Bill Cosby, to me, was kind of like a fatherly influence. I watched the Cosby Show, and to me, it was like a good kind of role model type family example sitcom, not like the just take every laugh they can possibly get kind of sitcom like you have nowadays. It was more like the wholesome family values lessons taught kind of show. And more than just the way it affected me personally, the way it affected a lot of especially white people I've talked to growing up throughout my life is that, well, let me put it this way. He's the exemplary one of the good ones. It's like this. The Bill Cosby character was proof in every white man's mind that racism is just a fucking nonsensical idea. Okay, so to discredit Bill Cosby in this day and age is to discredit that idea. Because subconsciously that idea is interwoven into anybody who's, watched TV. So anyways, in a nutshell, there's a bunch of whores that are being paid to talk a bunch of bullshit. And who gives a fuck? Just who gives a fuck? They're a bunch of whores. Fuck them. That's all they are. They knew what they were fucking doing, okay? It was status quo for the day and age. You find a fucking famous person, you get fucked up with them, you try to forget what happened, and bullshit. She's trying to advance her career. Whatever, man. And why the fuck are we talking about something that happened 40 fucking... Oh my God, it was in the 70s, people. In the fucking 70s. If Barack Obama wasn't president, we would not be talking about Bill fucking Cosby. Period. Okay? Anyway, moving on. So, dear, before I let you begin, obviously you want me to go into my little thing. Um, some news that I noticed in the past couple of weeks since we've been gone. Cutting 40,000 troops from the military. I think this is very interesting. And I've noticed something that people aren't covering when they talk about this. They're covering a lot of different strategic aspects of this. And it makes me wonder what, like, I don't know, what the hell goes on in these people's heads, kind of. Look, man, there are a lot of guys and girls who are on extended tours and who just want to go home, okay? And yeah, that I don't know how much of the 40,000 that is, but I know that there's a hell of a lot of people out there. And as far as our army goes, how much army do we need? You know, we're trying to help our allies prepare in Europe, okay? And we need to change some budgetary things around. But priority needs to be for technology. And there's still sequestration going on here. And there's no cooperation from Congress on the new technologies that need to be invested in, while they're still refusing to undo the sequestration to basically put it back to the future investments that they had agreed on several years ago. Yeah. Things that we should be researching now that they basically canceled with the sequestering. But yeah, so the main thing I wanted to point out about it was I hope that some people get to go home who've been fucking in the field for too long. Some old guys need to retire, you know? Anyway. There you go.
Speaking while we're on terms of the military, the Pentagon lifted their ban on transgenders in the military. Very awesome, I think.
So, like, what I want to know is before they supposedly allowed these people in the military, who was directing the planes? That's all I got. Okay, anyway. What else we got? What else we got?
James Holmes, the Aurora, Colorado shooter, was found guilty on 165 different charges. Trial is now moving on to the sentencing phase to decide if he's going to spend life in prison or be put to death. Yeah.
And they had that other one. They had some weird incident where they thought there was a shooter, but then there wasn't.
Yeah, this was on a naval base in Maryland, if I'm not mistaken, where they actually had a shooting in 2012.
Yeah.
And they thought there was another shooting, but it turned out there wasn't.
You remember what they said? I don't even remember what they said. How? Funny. I don't have like an extensive memory for bullshit. So like when I hear bullshit, it just kind of flows past. Shit. Bull. I had a Spanish teacher. Getting a little bullhorn. I had a Spanish teacher that when you did something right, I'm talking like middle school Spanish. And when you did something right, she went, and the muy bien to you. And that's all I have to say about that. Okay, I'm tired. We're trying to get through this. We were just like, We're gonna sleep or we're gonna make a video. I guess we can make a video before we go to sleep.
Okay, while we're on the topic of trials, Oscar Groening, who served as an SS sergeant at Auschwitz during World War II, as what you can essentially call a bookkeeper, nothing more really. He was found guilty of being an accessory to the murder of 300,000 people and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Now, this sets a precedence for cases against former Nazis because this is the very first case where a Nazi was being tried and found guilty who wasn't involved in the physical side of the mass murders. And also, he's 94 years old.
I think the whole thing seems suspicious.
That's a
Well, okay. Let me put it this way, just hypothetically. If there was, say, perhaps some Russian involvement in the Holocaust, the soldiers wouldn't have much proof. Not a lot of people would have much proof. The only people that would have much proof and would be able to out the Cheka involvement pre-1945 would be a bookkeeper. Just saying. And it's an odd time when Europe is about to go to war, when tensions are kind of at their precipice again, that they just happen to be, well, let's go ahead and finish this whole horse beat dead.
Well, now when I say bookkeeper, he was in charge of taking inventory of all the stuff that came in with people.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Probably took some inventory of some other things too.
Okay, moving on.
Just saying, it's possible. There's a lot of people who get really pissed off when you just want to ask simple questions about who all is really to blame. I'm not saying the Nazis weren't to blame. Obviously, the fucking Nazis were to blame. But there was some other shit going on there. And for years after that, that shit continued in Russia. And it started with basically waves of what amounts to Russification infiltrating into Germany. And they've had a long history before that of kind of starting racist political movements in different countries. It's the basic fundamental of divide and conquer. That's all I got. Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of divide and conquer, we got a lot of divide and conquer going on right now. So, definitely a lot of the divide phase. I don't think many people are aware of how much we're being conquered, but it's been going on for quite some time, people. There was this University of Illinois coach who, what was he? He was convicted or something. I saw it in the news. This guy was dividing his girls' basketball team. I think it was a high school basketball team. Whatever. It was college.
University.
Oh man. For their scrimmages, for their practice, dividing them by race, and basically saying all kinds of nasty shit to the black girls. And for this to be going on this day and age, for this to even be fucking happening, is mind-boggling. The results, the fruits of your efforts, right-wingers, it's speak volumes of your intentions, and they tell directly of your soul. Yeah. What else we got? What else?
While we're on the topic of colleges, LA Tech, Louisiana Tech University, apparently it's been discovered that they have been charging a higher tuition to full-time female students. And the only reason that this came about is because a female student happened to come across this information, and there's a lawsuit now.
Like, what the fuck is that, man? That's what I'm saying. The fundamentals of what people are being taught is flawed. The foundational principles of what people think morality should be is flawed if the fruits of these things are people who do this shit. Okay? The Christianity, and what's sad is that most of these people who are just wanting to oppress other people, just wanting to be hateful and spiteful to other people, are the ones that call themselves Christians, and are the ones who have defined Christianity in the realm of popular knowledge. I think that's a tragedy for obvious reasons, but it's a tragedy across the board when it means these people are being taught from the time they have been taught, from the time that they grew up, that a feeling of superiority is morally acceptable. It's a fucking shame. Old covenant, new covenant. Yes.
I said you're second.
Mm-hmm. See, let me see. I got something written down. Whether it's Islam or Russia, you recognize as the enemy. Every divisive topic of the day comes from the same place. We need to stand united. No matter what silly thing that makes us angry and point the finger, we need to stay united. It's every Christian duty to discuss how Christ died to fulfill the old covenant. And that's that covenant that makes them excuse their feeling of superiority. That's all racism comes from these old covenant faiths. Okay. And Christ came to fulfill them, which meant to put an end to those aspects of those covenants, okay, in which there was one people who was chosen for a time. When that time had ended, the covenant was fulfilled. And it's been a while, okay? Slavery is not condoned, okay? That's just not a Christian thing. Bigotry of anyone whose personal preferences you disagree with is not condoned in Christianity, okay? Not in true Christianity. Judge not, lest ye be judged yourselves. Forgive, and only then can you be forgiven. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Put yourself in their shoes for a change, you know? Empathize a little. What a concept. Those who don't recognize the difference between the old and the new covenants Well, they don't recognize me. I don't plan on recognizing them. Anyway. What else we got?
So we've got George Bush Sr. fell in his home in Maine, broke a bone in his neck. Found out when I was doing a little bit of research that he suffers from vascular Parkinsonism, which apparently is a variation of Parkinson's disease that pretty much keeps you confined to a wheelchair. Which makes me wonder how he felt broke a bone in his neck if he's supposed to move around in a wheelchair. Apparently he's going to be wearing a neck brace for a little while, and it's going to be a 3 to 4 month recovery time.
John Kerry broke his leg. George Senior broke his. Wait, if we got anything else? I'd be interested to know if there was any other interesting injuries going around. Dick Cheney shoot anyone else in the face? Alright, what else we got? Anything else?
And last but not least, for those of you that haven't heard, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, 24-year-old Mohammed Youssef Abdulaziz shot up a military recruiting center in a strip mall, then drove 7 miles to a Navy Reserve Center where he rammed a gate and was shot and killed. 4 Marines were killed, 3 people were injured, a police officer, a Marine recruiter, and a sailor. So our prayers are with those families.
Yeah, if you're an atheist watching this, I want you to know that, first of all, for about 1,000 years, Christians have died to protect you. Second of all, that Muslim didn't identify which one he killed was a Christian or an atheist. I guarantee it. In fact, he'd probably prefer to target atheists.
Interesting tidbit about this guy. He apparently was born in Kuwait and was a naturalized U.S. citizen. He went to school here, worked here, grew up here, essentially, came over when he was a kid.
And I blame right-wing fucking bigots. I blame those who fall for the divide and conquer in this country, for the air of hypocrisy, for the lack of cooperation that leads to the rationalization by people like this to do the things that they do.
They're calling it an act of domestic terrorism as of right now.
Because he's a naturalized citizen.
You know.
Yeah, it's just, it's like the foundation of their religion to do what he did, you know. And I'm sorry, if you're a Muslim and you're a peaceful person, you need to recognize the plagiarism and call yourself something else. I'm sorry. That's my belief. And, you know, I know that it's your belief to fucking, well, it says in your book that you're supposed to kill people who disagree with what you fucking believe in. So, fuck you. Or, you know, if you're a peaceful person and you're in denial and like, oh no, I'm peaceful. Well, you're reading the wrong fucking book is what I'm trying to tell you. It's just nothing but plagiarism and violence. Take a little bit of plagiarism and a little bit of violence and we'll go conquer everything. And that's what they've been fucking doing for 1,000 years. Fucking talk about the Crusades. Huh. 200 years versus 1,400. Anyway. Yeah, if anybody wants to know, like, just historically, to have a little bit of integrity when you talk about comparing Christianity with Islam, go to Real Crusades History. This guy YouTube channel. He makes some very good documentaries, very thorough, original source documentaries that will teach you more about what happened during the Crusades than you'll learn anywhere else. What you doing, baby? He's doodling. So, That's the news. And that's a doodle. Like and subscribe if you found this informative or, you know, not that annoying or tedious and stuff like that. And go watch some Cosby show.